Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
You have the only armed, disciplined force available.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be your policeman. There's a reason why you separate military and the police. One fights the enemy of the state. The other serves and protects the people. When the military becomes both, then the enemies of the state tend to become the people.
Well said, General Adama. That being said, guys, today's date, September 7th, 2025, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. On the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we do pride ourselves on being a news podcast, which means that we only cite sources from the most reputable places with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, The Daily Beast, wherever extreme left, extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. We simply present you but the facts. At the same time, guys, we do try to maintain our professionalism. We try. Sometimes we fall short. Words do fly. At the same time, guys, maybe things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers. So if your discretion is advised, aside from that, welcome. So, well, there's no other way to get to this because we did actually have a full docket before we were going to go ahead and go with the news, and then other news popped up. So before we get to the crux of everything, we need to get to the fact that right now there are actually two bits of news that are going on out there that are not actually getting the notice they should be getting. At the same time, it should be very alarming.
Tonight, there are unanswered questions in the hanging of a Delta State University student. Good evening. I'm Megan West.
And I'm Troy Johnson. A 21-year-old found hung in a tree on campus early this morning. That body found around 7 o'clock by a faculty member. The discovery led to all classes being canceled. The family of the victim, Trey Reed, describe him as a quiet, light, sweet, and well-mannered person. They are asking for prayers tonight as Delta State students react to the unsettling news of his death.
Authorities say the body of 21-year-old DeMartavian Trey Reed was found hanged from a tree by a faculty member near the pickleball courts. Word spread quickly throughout the Cleveland campus, leaving students and others concerned and worried.
Well, because I am a Black student, hearing that happened to another Black student, it really made me feel, it's make me feel unsafe.
I do have to walk to class, and I like to go walk on the track, and it would be happy to know like what happened.
Delta State University Police Chief Michael Peeler says investigators found no evidence of foul play.
But pending an investigation, further investigation, and also from the medical examiner's office, we won't have more information until that part has been done.
And members of Reed's family are insisting on a thorough investigation.
Please do your research on this. Do not let them sweep nothing else under the rug. Enough is enough.
DSU police requested assistance from the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, Bolivar County Sheriff's Office, and Cleveland Police Department. Meantime, students hope they can get answers about Monday's shocking and unsettling discovery.
I'm a nursing student. I have to walk early mornings or wherever the case may be. So it's just about just knowing what happened and knowing
how to move on campus. You know, continue try to be out and be seen and be noticed, or if it's probably safer to stay in your room, and like we just need to know how to move. Or do we need to go home?
Well, no schools in the area were put on lockdown. Police say there is no ongoing threat to campus safety at Delta State.
Let's just go ahead and call BS on that one, because a Black student is found hanging on college campus, and you're going to sit there and say there's no threat. Well, you just heard two Black women just sit there and say, I'm not sure if I'm safe. And it is amazing. And I know some of you know it's Mississippi. I already know. a black person goes missing, hanged, or disappears in Mississippi, it is amazing the lack of urgency to find as much information as humanly possible, because that's exactly what's happening there. Campus police is trying to treat this as it wasn't foul play. Whereas in other reports, the family was told that the body of the deceased was found in his campus dorm. Whereas, as you just heard, reported that he was found hanging from a tree. So at the same time, I don't blame the family for wanting to sit there and go, well, what's really happening? At the same time, we're not going to accept the foul play BS. We're not. A black person is hung from a tree is rarely not anything but foul play, especially now that you have a bunch of disingenuous, ill-educated, really a bunch of misguided domestic terrorists, that's what I'm calling them, are looking to lash out. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that we see videos of the would-be Saint Charlie Kirk, that some people take it as, that you had people doing rallies, visuals, even those where it says white men fight back. The video's still out there. All sorts of just wonderful, rousing hate speech. At the same time, that goes unnoticed. But a black man is hanging from a tree in the South, and it's amazing how a lot of people are just like, meh. But the story is barely 48 hours old. It's amazing to me. It's just now hitting the mainstays. It's just now hitting NBC, CBS, ABC News, Fox News. I'll be surprised if they talk about it because it's a black person hanging. They'll probably try to find some way to twist the narrative and saying it's somehow his fault. But yes, there is something there going on, and I guarantee it's happening on that campus. So I don't feel bad. Here's the thing is, I am very concerned for black people, especially with the fact of the matter is we do gotta walk with our heads on a swivel. We definitely should not be walking alone, and in most cases where the law allows, you shouldn't walk empty-handed. But we will follow that story as it comes along. I am just saying the whole idea of the misguided law enforcement officer there who seemed to just be at a loss for words really should have a lot more information before you get in front of a podium. But because you're black, we're supposed to feel better that you're talking about a black person. Right. But that's not the only case that we have out of Mississippi, because we have another situation of another person that was hanged. And this was 24 hours post that college student.
Those stories shortly, but first, new breaking news for you at this hour.
Yeah, Vicksburg police say a man was found dead hanging from a tree this afternoon. Police say the discovery was made in the woods on Washington Street near one of the casinos in Vicksburg. Captain Curtis Judge identified the victim as Corey Zucatis of Brandon. Now, police say right now the case is being classified as a death investigation. No other information is being released at this point.
Now that makes sense. I can live with that because at least it's classified as death investigation. Because again, another person was found hanged in the woods near a casino, which you would think in the woods near a casino is never a slow day. There's always going to be folks traveling. There's always folks coming and going. So again, it's that whole idea of something has happened and it needs to be investigated. But I just find it funny. That's two stories of two black people being lynched. And again, next to nothing on the airwaves. I just find it interesting because let's be honest, the airwaves these days is all about, free speech. And a lot of people are finding out that free speech really is not free anymore. Why? Because Taco installed his own person at the FCC. He basically took it upon himself to be Charlie Kirk's best friend in competition with bedwench Candace Owens, who's also trying to grift her way back into white people's good graces. At the same time, who else does Taco go after? Because he's already got CBS by the balls. Paramount CEO bent the knee to him. Tim Cook of Apple has bent the knee to him. I wish I could take back my iPhone and go back to Samsung. At least at least Android welcomes me. Now I got to worry about if Siri's going to be basically telling on me to Trump. But at the same time, with everybody bending the knee, who do we have left? That's it. Who else will hold the liberal bastion line? Late night hosts, I know. But between your Seth Meyers, your Jon Stewart, your John Olivers, your Jimmy Fallons, your Jimmy Kimmels, your Seth Meyers, not too many people are left. The reason why we saw Stephen Colbert because of what happened with Paramount, and Paramount again, they wanted Warner Brothers. So what does the CEO do? We will give you anything you want, Taco. You just tell us what. You want to install a personal monitor to monitor CBS? No problem. Oh, and I want Stephen Colbert's show to go. No problem. Because again, he was giving, the CEO of Paramount was giving all this up so he can gladly go after Warner Brothers antitrust free. Understand, that's exactly what it is. And so now, with Colbert being the sacrificial lamb, welcome the next one, who as of today, which is breaking news, this news is just about 2 or 3 hours old, Jimmy Kimmel of ABC News, because of his comments, has his show put on the indefinite hold. Now, here's one thing I want to show you, because here's what ABC is doing. I'm going to play the monologue a little bit from the night supposedly where Taco got his panties in a twist and apparently got on the FCC chairman to go after ABC, who then decided to put Jimmy Kimmel's show on indefinite hold. I'll play the monologue first, and I just want you to notice something.
The second largest city in our bitterly divided nation, where, like the rest of the country, we're still trying to wrap our heads around the senseless murder of the popular podcaster and conservative activist Charlie Kirk yesterday, whose death has amplified our anger, our differences. And I've seen a lot of extraordinarily vile responses to this from both sides of the political spectrum. Some people are cheering this, which is something I won't ever understand. We had another school shooting yesterday in Colorado, the 100th one of the year. And with all these terrible things happening, you would think that our president will at least make an attempt to bring us together. But he didn't. President Obama did. President Biden did. Presidents Bush and Clinton did. President Trump did not. Instead, he blamed Democrats for their rhetoric. The man who told a crowd of supporters that maybe the Second Amendment people should do something about Hillary Clinton. The man who said he wouldn't mind if someone shot through the fake news media. The man who unleashed a mob on the Capitol and said Liz Cheney should face 9 barrels shooting at her for supporting his opponent blames the radical left for their rhetoric. And then the man who on 9/11, 2001, bragged that his building was now the tallest building in New York, which wasn't even true, by the way, visited the Pentagon for a 9/11 memorial, which, believe it or not, he made a bigly improvement over last year when he showed up at a 9/11 remembrance at a fire station in Lower Manhattan with a 9/11 conspiracy theorist who claims it was an inside job. This year, he brought his wife, which was better for sure. And I have to say, I don't know what's going on, but those two lovebirds, they seem to be closer than ever. I mean, if you see during the ceremony, in a tender moment, Donald reaches over and gives her a little tap. He taps her like he's hoping ketchup would come out. And she didn't really respond. Maybe that's their signal for my diaper is full. I don't know. And then it was off to New York for a Yankees game. Slow DiMaggio made an appearance at Yankees.
Okay, so I'm stopping it right there, because the reason why I say that, right, because when it first came out about what he said, I myself, trying to do due diligence, went looking for the clip. Supposedly, if it's still there, just to show you guys, because I do believe in video is better than anything else, could not find it. That is the most recent one as far as that. There's even one from 5 days ago where, again, doesn't show what he said, because, you know, when you look at it, it's not that bad, right? So with that being said, here's what actually was said that thankfully I was able to find it. Oh, thank you, Kara. I got it too, but I'm glad you got it. But let me actually show everybody else who may not know what was actually said.
Over the weekend, with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
That's it. That's basically it. All he said was point out the obvious. Because Taco was asked, how do you feel about his friend Charlie Kirk? You know, the one that he made such a big deal off of, the one that he sat there and did this whole grandiose speech on, and asked, how are you dealing with the death of your friend? Oh, well, we have a wonderful ballroom that's being built over here. You know, they've been asking for it for the last 150 years. I'm sorry. Where's the lie? Where is the lie in what he said? Because for me, I'm just like, it seems harmless to me. It's exactly what a late night show host is supposed to do. He's supposed to take they're supposed to, along with his writers, take the news and make you laugh. It's entertainment. But these days, late night show hosts and comedians are being taken far more seriously than anything else. And also at the same time, and thank you, Kerry, you beat me to it. He said the right is doing everything they can not to call Charlie Kirk still part of MAGA. Yeah. And the first part of that, he sat there and said they're doing everything short. When, for all those that haven't been paying attention, Charlie Kirk's killer comes from a conservative family out of Utah who are Trump fans. He's been around guns. His mom has scrubbed her social media because all she used to carry was guns around military. At the same time, we find out that the alleged killer may have had some transgender tendencies with the same lover, if you believe the text messages. But the point I'm getting at here is the boogeyman that is the left doesn't exist for them, but they make it about the left. At the same time, as many people have said, the call is coming from inside the house. And that's what we're watching. And I used to sit there and say, as Black folks, this ain't our fight, because right now, this is the inbred family reunion fighting over the sister/wife. That's all it is. But because, again, when it comes to the right, they have to go to their go-tos. They go to old faithfuls. They do. They always go to old faithfuls. Either go to religion, go to liberals, or my personal favorite, they go to Black people. And I'll explain, and number 3 will come up. But sticking with Kimmel for a second, because that comment led to Taco calling the FCC chairman, the person he installed, who then sent a scathing letter to ABC, also known as Disney, because the mouse owns everything, sat there and said, something needs to change, otherwise you will be fined. What does ABC do? ABC decides to they didn't say we outright cancel him. He's going to just be put off indefinitely, because they're right now trying to appease the man-child in the White House, because he's in a little tiffy because people called him out. You don't care. You don't even care about your first hostage. I've never seen anybody dislike somebody so much to where you just tap them on the shoulder and you look like you don't even want to be there. But then again, you are the 80-plus-year-old fossil that really should not be in the seat that you're in. But you're trying to go after those who are basically exercising their free speech. And let me tell you something right now, and I will say this as me being the host of this show. Free speech does not absolve you of the consequences of what you say. I have said plenty here on this show that I will stand 10 toes down on, whether asked in public or on record. Do I think Charlie Kirk deserved to die? No. But in the words of Malcolm X, the chickens came home to roost. You cannot grift off hatred and expect peace. At the same time, you aligned your boat with the crazy people. Why did you think that the crazy people wouldn't go after you because you're basically pandering to them? That's all I'm saying. But here's the crazy part. You would think, right? Because Pam Bondi made this whole big stink about we're going after those that are, spring out hate speech and things of that nature. And all I can say, start with your own goddamn house at Fox. Why? Because you had one anchor sit there and say that it's okay to basically 86 specially handicapped individuals.
Is now apologizing after he made a shocking comment about killing homeless people. Brian Kilmeade and the other hosts of Fox and Friends were talking on Wednesday about the murder of 23-year-old Irina Zarutska in North Carolina and how to stop those kinds of crimes when he said this.
Either you take the resources that we're going to give you or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
The comment didn't really get noticed widely until this weekend when it went viral and generated a ton of outrage. That's when Kilmeade went back on Fox News this morning to apologize. Here's what he had to say.
We were discussing the murder of Irina Zarutska in Charlotte, North Carolina, and how to stop these kinds of attacks by homeless, mentally ill assailants, including institutionalizing or jailing such people so they cannot attack again. Now, during that discussion, I wrongly said they should get lethal injections. I apologize for that extremely callous remark.
Yeah, he apologizes. No, you just because folks talked about it. But here's the crazy part. He said something, right? And at the same time, where is the outrage? Where's the outrage? Where is the Fox News, they should cancel him. They should remove that show. That anchor should be off the air. Been 24 hours since he said it. Crickets. Nothing from the FCC, nothing from the White House because, Taco's being distracted by his chicken nuggets and Big Mac and whatever else they're feeding him. It's crickets. And when you say, Laney, he gets to apologize, but Jimmy gets fired because that's the point. The point of it all is that they want to limit free speech. I mean, it's right out of the Project 2025 playbook. First is education, like they wanted. They wanted education to go to states. So what happened? They tried to take out the Department of Education. When you realized you couldn't do that the way you wanted to, you starved it. You fired employees, you cut funding, but the actual instigation still remains there. The actual institution still stays there. But at the same time, everything else suffers. You cannot outright kill something, so you kill the environment around it, hoping to hit your target. And at the same time, as Laney beat me to it, it's a distraction from Epstein. Why? Because there's something in those files, because just last week, there was a vote to actually have that distributed to the House floor. All but 2 Republicans voted against it. And it just goes to show you that they got their marching orders. We already know Taco's name has been brought up and it's in those Epstein files. We also know Bill Clinton's name has been brought up in those Epstein files. Here's what I say. Release the files and get somebody else other than Pam Bondi to actually be the Attorney General. Because I can guarantee you, if those files ever did get released, if they ever got released, as long as that heifer is the Attorney General, nobody will be prosecuted. There won't even be a case. Why? Because she gives answers like this. Because she was asked about the crackdown on hate speech regarding Charlie Kirk's passing. Her response.
Vice President Vance and Stephen Miller were saying that the full weight of the federal government should be used to target and investigate left-wing radical groups. Do you share that position?
Absolutely. We saw what happened to Charlie Kirk. He was assassinated speaking to college students peacefully, and he was assassinated. Anyone who commits such violence will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Look what almost happened to Governor Shapiro in the governor's mansion. His wife, his family, they were asleep upstairs and someone tried to light his house on fire. You know, there are so many crimes of violence throughout this country. Doesn't matter who it is. We're going to come after you if you commit a violent crime.
I pressed the AG on whether.
So a couple of things there that she, because it's Pam Bondi, she really failed to mention. The person that actually attacked Governor Shapiro and his family was an extreme right person, I should say, on the MAGA movement. The people that act the person that impersonated a police officer and decided to shoot Representative Horton and her husband was also an extreme MAGA, I'm gonna call him what he is, a terrorist. I can keep going down the list. If you really think about it, everybody that was involved in an act of terrorism against a politician, when you look into their backstory, has been Republican or extreme right. I am not saying that anybody, Democratic, liberal, or progressive, have had such extreme actions. I will say you will be hard pressed to find them because, again, I even point this out. I'll even say it here. Show an event to where a person was extreme liberal or progressive or Democratic, and they pulled the same mess that the last three people have tried. Just show it. Because, again, I'm not trying to play balance the scales. It's more like a very large person and a very skinny person are on a seesaw, and the large person is on the right side. That's all I'm saying. And now with this whole crackdown on hate speech, as they call it, because of Kirk, screams volumes about what they say, because all of it's been coming from the right. You might have a few people, and I will say this. I've been on TikTok. I've been on Facebook. I've been on Instagram. Okay. Yes, there are some people that are overjoyed about what happened to Kirk. I'm not going to lie. They're out there. Okay. But that's them. It is amazing how so many people have to sit there and say, when they talk about Charlie Kirk, first and foremost, I don't think that should happen to anybody. That's general consensus. The general consensus is we don't wish this upon anybody. But here's the thing. If you spew hatred, bigotry, racism, sexist, misogynistic views, why do you expect peace? Why do you expect someone's going to come to you and go, you know what? I like what you're talking about. Although some people did. That's how he was able to turn Point USA. A conservative money bag got behind him when he was a college dropout, and he created Turning Point USA. And then he decided to grift. He decided to go to college campuses with the whole prove me wrong thing. Not because he was trying to open a dialogue. No, because it's ratings. It's ratings for a white guy to go on a campus and ask women, well, I think abortion is murder. Prove me wrong. And of course, you're going to have those that want to debate him at the same time. It is nothing more than cinema for him to go back and make money off of, then go to the conservative, go to CPAC, which is their conservative convention every election cycle, sit there and say, I did this, and you know what? I wasn't wrong. Here's entertainment. This man grifted for quite a while. Made a nice little life for himself and his family. But again, when you grift off violence, when you grift off rhetoric like this, what do you expect is going to happen? There is going to be somebody that's going to look at you, and in this case, with the alleged shooter, if you follow what's said so far, they don't think that he went far right enough. And let's not even talk about Nick Fuentes out there. That man has said so much stuff, and I'm going to be honest with you. You'll never find him outside doing a debate or a dialogue. I guarantee it'll be in a closed off area with security out the ass, because he spewed twice as much venom as Kirk did, and at the same time, you think you can be touched. You think you can't be touched. I'm just saying. And for black people, we understand this. There's always somebody that can get you. Just don't think for 1 second that you can't. But the reason why I bring up Charlie Kirk is because for a person who's supposed to be the vice president of the United States, this man has a lot of time to do a lot of stuff. Even more so to go and host the former bigots podcast to basically talk about him as if he's his best friend.
Is now hosting this tribute episode of the Charlie Kirk Show right now. Have you been able to listen? And if so, what stood out to you so far?
Yeah, the vice president is hosting Charlie Kirk's podcast here from the White House right now. He talked about him as his friend and also highlighted Kirk's incredible influence in conservative politics. And here's what he had to say about Kirk.
He was a critical part of getting Donald Trump elected as president, getting me elected as vice president. And so much of our success over the last 7 months is due to his efforts, his staffing, his support, and his friendship.
Kira, the vice president said he will honor Charlie Kirk by making sure that the movement he created continues. Vice President Vance, Kira, also notably echoed comments we've heard from President Trump, blaming left-wing extremism, saying that contributed to Kirk's death. Now, the motive of the suspect, Tyler Robinson, at this point still is unclear. We know that the president is going to be traveling to Arizona on Sunday.
So I'll stop it right there because this is right before where the president was questioned. But yes, for a guy who had relations with the couch, leave it at that because that's already weird in itself. For a guy who literally is married to what can be considered the counterpoint of the GOP because he married an Indian woman, has enough time apparently in his busy schedule to go host a Dead Man's podcast. Now, here's the reason why I bring that up. Not because of the fact that he's trying to make it all about him, because again, this is what happens when people die. Especially people, whether they're famous or infamous, you will always have those folks that are going to come on in, try to act like the dead man's their best friend while grifting. Don't believe me? Go to Candace Owens' page right now. I can't believe they killed my friend. This is coming from the same woman who thought Hitler was okay. Miss me with that bed wench. But the reason why I'm bringing this up, because again, a lot of people, including myself, because I did a podcast this past Saturday on Charlie Kirk, in his own words, it's still available on the How the Frack We Got Here YouTube page for all those to see. There's a certain comment that he made about black women that still sticks with me, that he sat there and said that Black women do not have the brain processing power. That is why you needed affirmative action. You needed this to steal a white person's spot. Now, JD Vance tried to come on and sit there and say, well, it was taken out of context. This is why I'm glad social media exists.
Accuses Charlie of saying, and I quote, "Black women do not have brain processing power to be taken seriously." But if you go and watch the clip, the very clip she links to, you realize he never said anything like that. He never uttered those words.
If we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously.
Oh my God, you're right.
Do I need to say more? That's the entire clip. What was taken out of context? He and many others will believe this. They will believe that a black woman, here's what I know. I'm gonna tell you guys this, and I'm sorry, fans blowing, so it's catching my hair, so I apologize if I'm rubbing my eyes a lot. Here's the thing. The one thing I will say that scares the GOP, mainly white men, you know what scares them more than an educated black man? An educated black woman. Because an educated black woman can spin circles around them. An educated black woman can literally read the room and the brief at the same time, dressing them down and do it with a smile on her face. The reason why they're afraid of a black woman is because a black woman, above all else, will literally whoop their ass. And that is the reason why Charlie Kirk could sit there. And he's, again, set it from a place of safety, mind you. But it's amazing how J.D. Vance is going to start to sit there and say, well, it was taken out of context. Nope, that's the full clip. And he meant every word he said. And he meant, and again, when you think about the way he talks to women, saying that women should be submit to their husbands, and that, Democratic women will just die alone, want to die alone, want to be childrenless and all this stuff. The misogynistic views of that man is not just him. It's shared by others. So again, like here in Tennessee, I'll point them out. There was a vigil here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee for Charlie Kirk. And you know what I saw? A sea of mayonnaise. All I saw, he was such a good Christian. He was such a good Christian. I'm sorry. But the way, and again, I'm only reciting because the guy that I'm going to show at the end of all this sums it up clearly. But he said the best way I know how. The way you died doesn't absolve you of the way you lived. And honestly, Charlie Kirk grifted his way off of hate. You grifted your way off of hate, and you dressed it up as a Christian nationalist. You dressed up your religion as racism, but you called it Christian. Which, I'm sorry, if Charlie Kirk was in biblical times, he would have been on one of the tables that Jesus would have flipped over. That's all I'm saying. But again, that's not the only news we got, because if you are in Memphis, I do feel bad for you. Because why? Because Taco's Gestapo U.S. tour is now coming to your city.
Memorandum to establish the Memphis Safe Task Force, and it's very important because of the crime that's going on, not only in Memphis, in many cities, and we're going to take care of all of them step by step, just like we did in D.C. We have virtually no crime in D.C. right now, and we're going to keep it that way. It's our nation's capital. We're going to keep it that way, or we're going to federalize it if we had to, but we don't have to anymore because it's in such great shape. This task force will be a replica of our extraordinarily successful efforts here. And you'll see it's a lot of the same thing, although the numbers here are really something. They're really bad. Now, we did send FBI in about 4 months ago to work, and it brought some of the numbers down, and they did a great job, but we're sending in the big force now. We also sent them into Chicago on a sort of a moderate basis, and we brought down crime a little bit in Chicago, but we're now going to bring it down very big. We're going to be doing Chicago probably next. I was with a great businessman, a man who.
So I'm going to stop it there, because usually when he starts into the stories, he goes into 80-year-old rambling. And at this point, you're just like, so now he's coming to Memphis? Yes. Only because Governor Bill Lee in my home state of Tennessee is an effing idiot. He's a Trump cheerleader. Whatever Taco wants to do, he will kiss his ass and let it happen. That's the reason why we're getting a freaking Keto Elon tunnel here that's supposed to go from downtown Nashville to the airport, to an already crowded airport that has congestion issues. And you want to build a tunnel just for Tesla cars. Again, a bunch of idiots run the show. That being said, he talked about the fact that, we're going to go to Memphis because Memphis has a lot of crime. Memphis may have a lot of things. Yes, they do admit that they do have some issues, but not to the point to where the National Guard needs to be sent. But the funny part is, and I will always correct Taco when I hear this, it's not the military, it's the National Guard. Because why? Because the president cannot send the military force into a U.S. city. There's literally something in the Constitution about that, and that, again, under special circumstances, and must need an act of Congress to do so. So I hate when he says, we're sending the military in. No, you are sending in the National Guard. No disrespect to the National Guard at all. Thank you for your service. Although I really do wish those that are in the National Guard saw those orders and was like, hell no, we're not doing this. No, this will be the one order that we refuse. I wish those in the National Guard would do this. But then again, there may be those in the National Guard that look at this like, hey, we finally get a green light. But here's the problem with the National Guard. The National Guard is not law enforcement. They're not trained in law enforcement. They are combat-ready troops that are ready to be dropped off in theaters of war. They are reserved. They are basically reserve army. They are reserved armed forces that are trained for war. They're not trained for de-escalation. They are not trained. They're not trained to negotiate. They are trained to go in there and clean house and keep it pushing. So, of course, while Taco and them called the military, he did mention, oh, yeah, we got the numbers down in Washington, D.C. We were going to federalize them, but we chose not to. That's a lie. You were coming up on your 30 days. Now, for all those that don't know, D.C. is different from any other city in the U.S. They actually have certain rules to where the president can actually take over D.C., specifically their law enforcement, but he can only do so for 30 days. Anything more than that would require an act of Congress. And honestly, what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now, they're coming up on their 30 days, which means that either A, Taco would either need to withdraw the National Guard, which is going to have to happen anyway, or bring it up with Congress to basically federalize the National Guard as the DC police force. But you're probably wondering, what exactly did happen in Washington, D.C. that, Taco thinks he's won?
Deployed the National Guard on the streets of D.C.
This is Liberation Day in D.C.
to combat what he said was rampant crime.
And we're going to take our capital back.
The decision met with protests.
The fascist takeover must be stopped!
Pushback.
Do you guys think this is a good use of our tax dollars?
And clashes. So did it work? Crime reported to Metropolitan Police is down across the board, according to data collected by NBC News and NBC Washington. Violent crimes, including rape, assault with a deadly weapon, and sexual abuse, down 16% compared to the 30 days before the surge in law enforcement. Nonviolent crimes, like theft, down 18%. And homeless encampments, cleared. But context matters. Leading up to the surge, crime actually dropped every month this year. NBC Washington's Ted Oberg has been tracking the data since the beginning.
Here's what we found. These are the top 10 arrest types in D.C. over the last 30 days. None of these categories are violent felonies. In fact, 73% of them are misdemeanors, according to our analysis. And take a look at the top 3 charges: simple assault, driving without a license, and open container of alcohol. They wouldn't be considered the most serious crimes in any city in America, and yet they account for more than 1 out of every 4 arrests made in D.C. by local and federal authorities this month.
So hundreds of federal law enforcement officers and more than 2,000 members of the National Guard did have an effect. But at what cost? The Center for New American Security tells NBC News the National Guard deployment in Washington costs more than $1 million per day. The court system strained. Tourism, especially restaurants, taking a hit. D.C. residents finding the biggest cost, the impact on their daily lives.
We have never felt less safe. I have never, in my decades that I've lived here, walked down the street wondering who's going to jump out of an unmarked car.
In areas of D.C. with the highest levels of crime, some people say they do feel crime is going down.
The police presence is a little threatening. Like, I've been stopped by the police.
I want help from these soldiers, from these people that protect us. I want to have meetings here on the street rather than be snatched up off the street.
The community frustration palpable.
Free DC! Free DC!
Mayor Bowser, who spent years attacking President Trump, initially pushed back.
This action today is unsettling and unprecedented.
But because of DC's unique relationship with the federal government, now conceding to his demands, establishing the Safe and Beautiful Operations Center, named after his executive order.
Shooting somebody, still illegal. Committing carjackings, still illegal. Stealing from stores, still illegal. That won't change on September 11th. It'll be illegal.
As President Trump sets his sights on other cities, this city now left to rebuild trust and combat crime.
So one thing I do want to point out, because again, $1 million per day, right? Now, $1 million per day. And here's what I want to get to. And I apologize if I'm like this, because I want to show this. So keep in mind what they said. They said that crime was already going down well before Taco decided he wanted to invade. But during the time that the National Guard was there, so you're telling me that you had arrests in simple assault, no permits, and open containers of alcohol. Those were your biggest takeaways for $1 million a day. Think about that. Simple assault, no permit, open container of alcohol. That's it. Everything else, I mean, you can sit there and look at it. Theft, second degree, misuse of temporary tags, driving probably without a license, unlawful entry, possession of a controlled substance. Notice how all of those are on the lower parts. And yet, Taco's shining gem is that all he basically did was use a National Guard as a glorified police force. At the same time, do residents of DC feel better about it? It's a mixed bag, but for the most part, it's a no. Imagine now Memphis, because Memphis is part of a, unfortunately, red state that I live in, Tennessee, but Memphis's local government is majority Democratic. And here's the thing about Memphis. Yes, it does have problems. Does it require the National Guard? No, because again, with Republicans, if they can't outright get rid of something, they are going to basically choke it or choke the environment around it to basically make it lower and lower to where they can either privatize it or they can cut it up and basically divide the carcass amongst themselves, which is what they're trying to do with education right now. Because again, if they could get rid of the Department of Education, private schools, religious schools would make bank right now because they would get easy access to federal funding that was initially meant for public schools. That's the Republic. That's what Republicans would like to do. In the same sense, this is what Taco's trying to do. Taco's trying to occupy every Democratic city as intimidation, because within those National Guards are ICE. ICE, again, forget, the modern day Gestapo is still trying to follow that Nazi Stephen Miller's 3,000 deportations a day quota. That's all they're doing. They're not trying to police. They're trying to pick up and deport. It's not protect and serve. It's pick up and deport to make a white man feel better about himself. Say I'm wrong. That's all I'm saying. But move right along, guys. We do got to get back to Luigi, because I guess Luigi may have actually beat the terrorism charge because the judge threw it out.
Has dismissed terrorism charges against the suspect in the United Healthcare CEO murder case. That suspect appeared in a Manhattan courtroom for the first time in months, where the judge dismissed 2 counts of murder as a crime of terrorism, but the rest of the indictment remains, including second-degree murder charges, and that suspect has pleaded not guilty. Let's bring in ABC Chief Investigator.
So pretty much, I don't want to get y'all into the legal mumbo jumbo. It just comes down to the fact that the prosecution could not build a successful case of terrorism, more like a person that just happened to watch, stalk a certain CEO and decided that today was the day that he was going to do something about it. Can't knock it. But I'll also say this. Keep in mind how a lot of people feel about health insurance companies. I'm talking United Health Group. I'm talking Aetna, Humana, Cigna. I can keep going down the list. Not too many people are fond of health insurance companies, especially the fact that you have these people who CEOs are making buku bucks, while at the same time your premiums are going up, your prescription costs are going up, your copays are going up, not because of the fact that healthcare is already a for-profit system in America, and that's really the problem. It's because companies are fucking greedy. So again, you can blame Luigi. People who they feel about Luigi, I said it best. I don't agree of the action, but I understand. But it's also going to be harder for it. But I also sat there and said this, and again, I'll stand 10 toes on it. You'll be hard pressed to find a jury that won't find some sympathy for what that man did. You'll be hard pressed, because everybody has a horror story about life insurance and health insurance that, simply put, if you ask them to go with it, they probably wouldn't do it again. That's all I'm saying. But moving right along, guys. Again, I keep saying that free speech isn't free. I'll give you another example. Outside of Jimmy Kimmel show getting canceled indefinitely, the New York Times is being sued by Taco for $15 billion. I can only wonder why.
President Trump files a $15 billion lawsuit against the New York Times. The suit alleging a decades-long pattern of international and malicious defamation by the publication against the president, citing multiple articles and one book published by two Times journalists. The newspaper today says the suit has no merit and called it an attempt to stifle and discourage independent reporting.
Yes, Welcome to the next step in taking your free speech. Because keep in mind, guys, Taco sued CBS and 60 Minutes for an interview that didn't even include him. It's an interview about former VP Kamala Harris. That's all it was. It was an interview about the former Madam VP and her take as far as the election. And his argument was that they painted him in an improper light and could have actually impacted the election. But he tried to, it's really just glorified libel. But what happened? You would think, oh, it's CBS, it's 60 Minutes, the gold standard of journalism, integrity. They have multiple awards for who they interviewed, the documentaries and stories they covered. They should be above reproach. But what happened? Easy. CBS is owned by Paramount. Paramount CEO wants Warner Brothers. So how does he clear the lane to where he can? And keep in mind, this is before Skydance. Paramount now owns Skydance. But how did Paramount get Skydance? Because the Paramount CEO decided to go to Taco and say, look, what do I need to do in order for me to get Skydance pictures and to have no smoke from the DOJ? I guarantee Taco sat there and said, make 60 Minutes disappear. And what happened? Well, the head editor for 60 Minutes retired. They retracted the interview. They wound up settling. Keep in mind, CBS settled to Taco. And Taco could do nothing more than take his victory lap and say, I won. I told you 60 Minutes was bad. I told you 60 Minutes was terrible. It's terrible programming. It's terrible. And what that Paramount CEO get in return? He got Skydance. But you know what else he wants? Warner Brothers. And so what did he do? He goes back to the man-child. I want someone at CBS to watch CBS. I want to know anytime they talk about me, I need some of my people there. What happened? CBS installed a moderator, an ombudsman they call him. And what is that ombudsman's job? What is his job? To report back to the White House on anything that CBS puts out. Why do you think the VMAs, LL Cool J, an icon of hip hop, right, sat there and said, oh, well, this is all about the music tonight. Everything else, leave at the door. Everything else. When the VMAs, the Emmys, any award show does have political undertones. But it was just 2 weeks ago. It's still there. Oh, it's about the music. We're not about the politics. Because you are now under the thumb of the man-child. But what happened? Paramount now has a clear lane to get Warner Brothers. So what does this have to do with the New York Times? It's simple. Project 2025. And I know a lot of people get tired of me saying that, but it's true. Project 2025, reduce education states' rights. He's done that. Occupy democratic cities with military strongholds. Done that. Control the outlets of media. He's already sued 60 Minutes. He's now suing the New York Times. Here is the scary part. I hope the New York Times does not settle. I hope they don't. Because here's the problem. You're basically telling the man-child, all I have to do is sue you and keep suing you. And now that I have the backing of the office of the president, I now have the backing of the DOJ, which at this point, he used the DOJ like his own personal law firm. I hope they don't crumble, because here's the thing. It sets a dangerous precedent for anybody else in journalism or just in the news or just reports news, just like me. But it's that rhetoric that goes back to them saying, we are going to prosecute and go after anybody that speaks out against us, but we can say whatever we want. That is the scary part of all of it. But we'll follow that story as it goes along. Meanwhile, Fani Willis, former Fulton County DA Fani Willis, lost her appeal. And again, this goes back to what I said about what Charlie Kirk said. But I'm sorry, Kira, what did you say? He's suing as a private citizen, so technically he does not have the office of the president behind him. Technically, you are correct. But here's the problem. When you are in the presidential office, you cannot be seen as a private citizen. That's the problem. That's the conundrum, the paradox that he's trying to sit there and say. He's trying to sit there and say, well, the New York Times went after him for years, which means that, okay, so that means as president, your official capacity cannot be used here. But mark my words, the moment he doesn't get his way, I guarantee he'll say, well, we'll take this to the Supreme Court. Because again, the president has pushed to a conservative-leaning Supreme Court, and we've already seen that they will lean his way 5 times out of 7. And those 5 times have wrecked this country. That's all I'm saying. But I want to get back to Fani Willis for a second, just because, well, she lost her appeal, and it's disheartening. But we got to talk about it.
Breaking news, the Georgia Court of Appeals disqualifying Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis from her prosecution of President-elect Trump and his co-defendants in the election interference case tied to events after the 2020 election. However, the indictment against Trump still stands. Executive editorial producer John Sant.
So yes, that woman right there, and I just want to put her back up there. So for all those that don't remember, she's Fulton County DA Fani Willis. Now, for all those that don't remember, when Trump actually had court cases, she was the one over the Georgia election interference case. The case that basically where Taco sat there and said, he called up the Georgia Secretary of State and said, is there any way you can find 11,580 votes? Yes, because he needed that to overturn the election in his favor in Georgia. Because for all those that don't remember, that was a special election to where Georgia turned blue and actually gave us our first black senator, Senator Warnock, out of Georgia. So, little history point there. But anyway, Fani Willis was actually the prosecutor for the case involving Taco to basically go after him for election tampering. Keep in mind, this is the same woman who was basically saying she was rigged for this case to begin. Now, for all those that may or may not remember, Taco was running for president at the same time, and his excuse was that he could not have this case proceed forward because he's running for president. It's a BS excuse, I know, but at the same time, folks have allowed it. The courts pushed it back, basically running the time out because, again, he was banking on the fact that enough idiots voted for him to be president again so he could sit there and go, you can't prosecute me. I'm the president. The president can't be prosecuted, which is an opinion of the DOJ, not an actual law. But that being said, with Fani Willis's case, by the way, for all those that don't remember, before the case started, Trump's legal team tried to sit there and say Fani Willis had an improper relationship with one of her prosecutors, which I come to find out that they were having a relationship. But the prosecutor was not benefiting financially. It took a whole case in 3 months for them to do that. But during that case, Fani Willis wore that Trump team out. And you gotta be a bad black woman. I mean, all black women are bad black women. Don't get me wrong, but you gotta be a bad mamma jamma. And I know I'm showing my age when I say that. When you can pick apart the prosecutor's testimony while you're sitting in the witness stand, she did that. Made them look like idiots. At the end of it all, the judge had no choice but to throw out her case. But because the judge apparently didn't like the way that she apparently handled them, basically whooped their ass, He sat there and said, okay, well, one of two things has to happen. Either you resign off this case or the prosecutor or your prosecutor does, the one you had a relationship with. The guy decided to, resign his position off the case. So Fani Willis moved forward. Vis-a-vis, let's fast forward 5 months. Unfortunately, Taco's president again. What happens? He gets people in place to remove Fani Willis off the election tampering case, which again, he did because, well, basically, and I believe this with every fiber of my being, if Fani Willis was allowed to run that case against Trump and his legal team, I truly believe that Taco will be sitting in jail right now. I believe that she had everything she needed to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he did interfere in the election. I really do believe that. But it's also the reason why I know Taco believed it. Because again, Taco, like many other white men, they are scared of educated, no nonsense, strong black women. Fani Willis is definitely the definition of that. And I really do believe, had that case went forward, Taco wouldn't be president. I think Taco would be sitting in jail. I mean, he's already a felon. He's a felon that's never going away. But I think that he would not be in the presidential office had that went forward. And that tells me off the bat that again, with black women, and again, Trump doesn't have a very good win record with black women. I think he's lost every case where a black woman has been involved, because it was a black woman that basically got him on mortgage fraud back in New York. The AG there got him on mortgage fraud. And it's the reason why that 500 plus $500 million fine is still hanging over his head. It hasn't gone away. It's actually accruing interest, honestly. But when it comes to black women, I'm just saying, it's amazing when you got guys like Charlie Kirk out there that want to sit there and say, oh, well, it's because they don't have the brain processing power. And at the same time, a black woman scared the piss out of this man to where he had to run to a presidential seat to basically save his own ass. That's all I'm saying. But some other good news, I guess, that we got. Mortgage rates are going down. Well, but still hard enough to get a house.
To buy a home, the interest rate on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage experiencing its biggest weekly drop in the past year. And Elizabeth Schulze is here with more on that. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning, Rebecca. Mortgage rates now at the lowest level in nearly a year in anticipation of an interest rate cut by the Federal Reserve next week. The average rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage now 6.35%. For most of the year, we've been hovering closer to that 7% range. And this really does make a difference when you're looking at your budget. A $400,000 home loan, 20% down payment. Your monthly payment now is going to be about $138 cheaper than it was in January when we saw those rates at 7%. But home prices are still at record highs in many U.S. cities. No doubt this is still a very challenging market. And we have some new exclusive data this morning from real estate firm CBRE that shows just what that looks like. The average monthly mortgage payment on a new home right now, about $4,500. A new apartment lease, on average, $2,200 a month. In other words, it is more than twice as expensive right now to buy than it is to rent. If you are trying to buy or refinance this fall, might be worth considering an adjustable rate mortgage, guys. Some of those rates are below 6% right now.
So what's crazy about this is that, yes, mortgage rates have gone down, and it's not bad. It really isn't. But banks are budging. I mean, granted, we just found out today that the Federal Reserve did cut interest rates by 0.25%. So, another thing that Taco can try to do a victory lap on, I finally got the Federal Reserve to cut the rates. We'll be doing numbers by Friday. He's going to say that. But yes, mortgage rates is still freaking high. At the same time, guys, it's still hard to get a house. Banks are still, trying their hardest not to sit there and say, oh, well, for the simple fact of the matter, it's just that you got to have a certain amount. And let's not forget the marginal issue when it comes to certain people of color. Because yes, if you don't think that people of color are still not being discriminated when it comes to buying a house, you are either blind, deaf, dumb, or all the above. That's all I'm saying. But also, I did want to bring this up as well, just because, again, with the Federal Reserve being cut only because Trump's person that he did want for the Federal Reserve is still being validated, or I should say being confirmed, because it hasn't happened yet. At the same time, Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook is still around. Amazing how Trump tries to get rid of black women, but black women always seem to basically have the upper hand on him. You'll love to see it.
Federal appeals court just handing down a ruling in the last few minutes saying that President Trump cannot remove Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook from her position. What that means is that Lisa Cook, in all likelihood, will attend the Federal Open Market tomorrow, which is where the agency decides the future of the interest rate. Now, this comes as the Senate has confirmed the White House's pick, Stephen Myron, to serve on the board. What that means for the new interest rate, that is still yet to be seen, but we are going to bring you more developments as we have.
And that's pretty much it. Because you wonder, because again, the guy that they got for Fed governor, I don't know how, because he hasn't been appointed yet. Apparently he managed to influence Jerome Powell and the rest of the Federal Reserve to finally cut rates. So you can sit there and say that, yeah, it's because of that, but honestly, we're not sure. At the same time, Lisa Cook, who again, what this whole rigmarole was about, this whole thing, for all those that don't know, because again, Lisa Cook is the first black Federal Reserve governor, which means that she has a lot of pull in what goes on as far as interest rates across the board for banks in the U.S. A very, very influential position. At the same time, she pretty much told Taco, hell no, I'm not going to do what you want. So what does he do? He has to fabricate something. I don't like the way you did your mortgage applications. I think you were basically making up numbers. No, that would be you in New York. But again, he weaponized the DOJ to look into her mortgage applications, and to which he tries to sit there and say that there was some shady dealings. But Lisa Cook said, look all you want. I'm covered. You can't say the same. And so he tried to get her fired. So the appeals court sat there and said, nope, you don't have enough evidence. She can remain in her position. And again, when it comes to Taco and his win-loss record against black women still seems to be a goose egg, and a whole lot of losses. But you think you get used to it by now. But as we are about to wrap up and get to our feel-good news segment, guys, I got to point something out. Because remember I sat there and said at the beginning of this podcast where I said, whenever it comes to the right, they always do things in threes. They'll blame religion or praise religion. I'm baptized. I'm delivered. All my sins have been whitewashed away. Religion. Or they'll blame the left, progressive and liberals. It's those liberals. Those liberals are always saying they want something free. They don't want to work. They want to sit home, play video games, eat steak, get their SNAP and food card benefits, while you, the American taxpayer, are working 80 hours a week and you can barely get a can of tuna. And my personal favorite, when all else fails, what do most white people do? Blame the black guy. Enter this bitch, Megyn Kelly.
Like, that's one algorithm I'll support. But they have to grow up in this country. We don't feel like ourselves. We haven't felt like ourselves in a while. And I'm sorry to get political, but I'm just going to be honest. We haven't felt like ourselves since Barack Obama. I just think he was such a slick snake. He was this affable guy who was like wearing good suits and looked the part and sounded the part and dressed the part, but was so divisive in his messaging. The left, they look at you like, when you say this, they don't know what you're talking about. It's like, because you don't pay attention to the other half of the country. You only pay attention to your absurd news sources, which spin and spin and spin to protect Democrats, especially if they're named Obama. He's the one who started to inject race where no one had been doing it. He's the one who started to use his pen and the phone to shove things down our throat that we didn't want. He's the one who shoved through an entitlement on our health care and our personal doctor visits that he promised he wouldn't mess with, and then he did, really hurting people, causing massive anger and open lies. He never missed an opportunity to twist the knife on the racial issue. He would do it subtly and in his own way, but it was very clear what he was doing. For the first time, we had a president who weighed in on legal cases before they'd played out. We never did that. That was a taboo that had never been crossed before him. And Donald Trump was the reason Barack Obama, reverse that. Barack Obama was the reason Donald Trump came about, that he was born as a political figure. They say Trump's divisive. He was the antidote. He was the answer to the divisiveness of Barack Obama. And we just haven't felt like ourselves for years now. I don't know if there's a settling. I don't know if there's if the hand-holding, the rhetorical hand-holding that could happen in a moment where we're all looking at this tragedy and lamenting it could last and change things. But I have to hope for it because, again, I have children who need to live here, who need to.
Ma'am, I feel sorry for your children. I really do. Because I don't know why. And again, I don't like being killed anyway. That's I don't like using the word bitch. I don't. I think, whether it's a man or woman, you shouldn't use it. But there are some people that just fit the effing definition, and it's her. Also, Candace Owens, but Candace Owens is more of a C than a B. But also, she's a C. But technically, I just called her a bitch. But it is amazing to me that former President Barack Obama has now been out of the White House, now going on 3 presidential terms. 3 presidential terms, which means 12 years. President Obama hasn't been in the White House in 12 years. Him and Michelle are living life. The first lady, the true first lady, in my opinion, they are living life. They have done their due diligence. They have served their time. We do miss them. I'll be the first person to say it. Highly do miss them. But why is it? Why is it when it does come to the simple fact of the matter, when you get individuals like that bitch that want to sit there and say, you know what? We haven't been the same since a black man. You and every other snow bunny during NBA All-Star weekend. The point I'm getting at is that it's easy to blame people of color. It's easy for them because, like Taco, they dodge accountability. They dodge accountability. They dodge responsibility. It is never on them. It is the situation they've been roped in, the situation that's been left in by a previous person, all of the above. And I can go into the record and say, because again, President Obama, after his consecutive term, we were supposed to hopefully have a Democratic president. What happened? Trump happened. And of course, the always in regal and beautiful mannerism that President Obama and the First Lady welcomed what would be the beginnings, or I should say the middle of Jabba the Hutt's transformation and his first hostage into the White House. And what happened after that? Oh, everything is Obama's fault. Everything was Obama's fault. Obamacare is terrible. Well, it was actually the best thing out there, but at the same time, Republicans wanted to make sure that healthcare companies got what they wanted. At the same time, he ended the war in Afghanistan. I would have done it on day one. And yet the issue with that, with the Middle East still going on, between Israel, Palestinians, including Gaza, with Hamas still involved. I would have ended the war in Ukraine. Ukraine is still being attacked by Russia, who is now invading Poland. But his whole thing of one day, I'll bring down costs. Costs have increased. The price of eggs is still fucking high. I love the fact that whenever it comes to a white person in power and they're conservative, that if you try to if accountability was water, they would pass it by even though they're thirsty as hell. But it's easy to blame the black guy. Why? Because for most black folks, we got tired. And I'm not saying tired of the blaming, not tired of the shtick. We got tired of carrying this fucking country. Black women got tired of carrying this fucking country. Black men got tired of carrying this fucking country because they try to sit there and say, we built America. No, slaves built the White House. Twice, actually. Slaves built this country. Immigrants built this country. All white people mostly did was invade, destroy, disease, mutilate, cannibalize, interrogate, create internment camps, and all the above. As Joe Morton said in one of his favorite monologues, you people are a disease, a virus. And I only hope that a bigger virus comes along so you can get to see the havoc that you've wreaked upon us. And I'm hoping I'm there to see it. Megyn Kelly is a grifter. She's basically a white Candace Owens, except that she has white women tears. And white women will do what they do best. They will sit there and go along with the herd, but then complain about the outcome. In the words of Dave Chappelle, you were part of the heist. You just didn't like your share of the cut. So with that being said, guys, before we move on to our feel good segment, I think the best way to sum up how we actually feel in America as Black people, I will let Reverend Dr. Howard John Wesley say it best.
It's tiring being Black in America. It's exhausting defending your existence everywhere you go. It's an assault on my identity to keep seeing this nonsense in our nation, and I am overwhelmed.
Pretty much.
It's tiring being Black in America.
Yep. And again, he's not the first person to say it, but it's tiring. Only because people of color, not just Black people, but like I said, if you follow history, we got dropped off at different continents. So people of color built this country. People of color have saved this country. Specifically, and I always will put this above all else, Black women have saved this country multiple times. Black women helped overturn the vote in Georgia. Black women started the drive for Barack Obama to be president. Black women actually helped in getting Joe Biden elected when we thought we were getting another second viewing of Taco. And Black women, specifically one, a former Madam VP, sat there and said, if Taco became president, he would do everything he can to ensure there would be no other president after him. And Harris hasn't been wrong yet. So, with that being said, guys, we're going to go on to our feel-good segment because usually on the Frack we got here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes making easy faith in humanity, but hey, it's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday. We want to leave you guys out some good positive vibrations, and hopefully this will help. Imagine that you were in a family for almost nearly a century, had nothing but boys, and the one time, which is barely one rare in a generation, this family finally gets a baby girl. Weird, isn't it? But it's true.
Tonight here, America Strong. For 100 years, they've been saying it's a boy. Tonight in Montgomery County, Texas, one family saying enough with the boys. For the first time in 108 years, after generations of baby boys, the Sherman family is finally welcoming a baby girl. Meet Montgomery County firefighter Lieutenant Michael Sherman, his wife Jakia, and their 5-year-old son Makia. And this is the rest of the Sherman family. Look at this. For years now, every time a new baby is coming, they all gather, all wondering if this will be the one. Will there finally be a baby girl? And so this time, a cake with a question mark on top, blue or pink on the inside. And this was the moment they found out they're breaking a century-old streak.
What color is the cake?
That firefighter dad overjoyed.
We're the one that bringing a baby girl into the world finally after over 100 years. It's amazing.
Hugs from the family. So many Shermans happy. They love the boys, but boy, were they ready for a girl.
I have 3 boys. My dad had 2 boys. His brother had 2 boys. So it's never been nothing but boys, boys, boys.
The last girl to carry the Sherman name was Ora Bell Sherman, Michael's great-great-aunt, born in 1917.
She dealt with the civil rights during the civil rights time. She was doing this. She met a lot of civil rights leaders, and she made an impact.
Tonight, the fire station cheering, saying we can't wait to welcome this precious girl into the Montgomery Fire Department family. And words of advice, you will soon see how being a girl dad will be your most important job. Tonight, Mom's cousin, Mercedes.
Hey, David.
Telling us the baby is due in March.
She's already a history-making baby. We're so ready to rally around the baby and rally around Mike and Jakia. So thank you, David, for going on this journey with us.
Thank you. Finally, the baby girl.
Right. Finally, a baby girl. But I'm sorry. But the whole time the thing was going, I was like, sharpen. I'm sorry. That was wrong. I apologize. But yeah, imagine you were born into a family for 100 years, all boys, and this girl is going to be the most spoiled thing. And I mean spoiled. I feel bad for her when she tries to date. Woo! I know, because I got mine, and she's barely one, and I'm not looking forward to the next waiting 15 years because I feel bad for that boy that comes to my door. But anyway, try to leave sound a good note. I'm not trying to sit there and threaten the guy that wants to date my daughter, but yes, he will be threatened. That being said, I do want to thank everybody, because that's going to do it for our podcast. Thank you all for liking, watching, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that from the bottom of my heart, and stick with me. Thank you for the comments from Lainey and Kira. Really do appreciate that, and everybody else. I'm still working on this. I know there are probably some comments that were in on the Facebook page or YouTube. Still trying to work those out, so if I didn't get to them, I highly apologize. But again, it's all appreciated. Shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. Shout out to Always Press Record TV, APR TV. Why? Because How the Frack can be seen on there, along with other shows. It can be seen on the Roku channel store or Amazon Fire TV app. Definitely check out APR TV at Always Press Record. Also, blurredstation.com. Guys, I have talked about this because this needs to be talked about. This is literally the table that we've asked for. We have asked for a place for our content, our viewership, our eyes, most importantly, our dollars to be going to. There's a lot of great things going on at Blur Station, and you definitely want to jump on the show, to jump on the train, really, because it's leaving the station, and when it does, it picks steam. It is a movement. It is a mission. It is the new Black Hollywood. So definitely check out BlurStation.com. Hit the Join Now button. It's $10.99 a month to stream Blur Station, and Blur Station can be streamed on all smart devices. Definitely check that out. And I also say run for office. Why? Because you want to know how the crazy people got in, the Moms for Liberty, all the other ones, the MAGA folks, even the Tea Party. I haven't said the Tea Party a long ass time, but this is part of how they did that. If you do feel the call to serve, whether it's locally or nationally, definitely log on to runforoffice.org. Type in your address. It'll take you to the process of how you can actually get on the ballot to where you are locally, hopefully be able to run and serve your city, your state, or even your nation. And I cannot stress this enough, guys. We need to have more people, because trust me, next year is the midterms. And Democrats, I say this up until the point where midterms are here. You have a roadmap. Democrats have a roadmap. But you guys will need to shut off the old guard. Progressive leaders, liberal leaders will need to step forward. You need to start speaking to your constituents now. Get the pulse, because here's the thing: come election cycle, that's when you want to be friendly. It'll turn people off. If you talk to them now, you have their ear come next year. And there's nothing that scares Taco worse than a Democratic-controlled House and Senate that can make the last 2 years of his presidency a living hell. Please give us that entertainment. Also, guys, as far as the show goes, How the Frack We Got Here can be seen on all socials. If you literally type in How the Frack We Got Here on YouTube, my page pulls up. Like, share, subscribe. Definitely, we are trying to grow. We are trying to inform. And again, I'm just doing the news as it is. I am not left. I am definitely not right. But we are explaining the in-betweens, and that's the thing that the news used to be. That's the reason why I love doing this. So definitely do that. Also, myself, Black_Spartan615. Also on socials, like and follow me. I talk to everybody. Just don't be weird. I don't have to start blocking folks. At the same time, guys, protect your peace. Don't doom scroll. Go outside. Enjoy the summer, because summer is eventually fading off. At the same time, guys, touch some grass. Go do something different. Go do something fun. Go check on your people. Call or text. But get out of the headspace, okay? This is just a cycle. If you live long enough, you'll see it all come back around again. And trust me, I'm still believing in The Simpsons when it comes to Taco. That's all I'm saying. But outside of that, guys, again, this will replay again on YouTube and everywhere else come Saturday for all those that did not catch tonight's show. Also, let me do some shameless plugging. The folks that are also part of my podcasting group, definitely check out Room Full of Blurs. Why? Because, well, she has actually hit 500 plus subscribers. So congratulations, Room Full of Blurs. They do amazing stuff on her show. I highly recommend that you watch that. Also, Geek by Heart, because they were also commenting in here as well. Definitely check them out for all things geeky, horror, because she is definitely on top of that, as well as gameplay. Definitely check her out there. Also, Blurred's Eye View, Tafari TV, Nails Pressed by Z, Navy of Blurcon Speaks, or Navy Montel. Please check them all out, because again, all of them have something great to share, and I hope that you subscribe and listen to them as well. At the same time, guys, like I said before, I am all about informing, all about empowering, and at the same time, all about making sure that you're not falling for the bullshit. That being said, the last thing I'll say about how the Frack right here, it's all about being informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel, guys. We are simply giving you all the information allowed to make up your own mind, but we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past, making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, maybe one day electing our first black woman to be the first Madam President. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up on our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians, but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I promise we'll get through this. Have a good night, guys. Stay safe. Stay strong. We'll be all right. Peace.